Here we are, Eric. Are you ready to do this? Infinite Legions project number two. Been a long time coming, but I'm thrilled that we are here tonight, finally talking about Joe Manganiello's Arkhan the Cruel. What a great documentary to kick this off from Brad, right?
Yeah, it was cool to see the final product. We've been watching it come together along the way, but
Yeah.
with that final polish on it and all those extra B roll shots in there and everything. Yeah, it's a really cool piece, and it really does, I think, give a nice inside look to how
Yeah.
great this entire project has been from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's a nice inside peek at how it's come together.
Yeah, we've always liked to give people some of that behind the scenes look at stuff, even when the two of us come on here and talk about like figure obscura drops and so forth. We love bringing people into the studio in a way that they can see what we're doing, and these documentaries that we're doing for Infinite Legions do that in a big way, to be able to see. I mean, even some of our Zoom calls with Joe and our meeting with Joe where we're presenting this stuff to him, to be able to bring the fans into that, I think is pretty cool and special.
Yeah, we we thought that it was going to be cool to use those Zoom sessions, but yeah, that really added so much more to the piece than I ever expected it to. I mean, because that really does have a little bit more of that true day-to-day workings of
Yeah.
what the discussions looked like, and and then they're from different points in time, so like it's a nice chronology of how things came together.
For sure. And so we started with the documentary. If you're just joining us here on the live stream, there is also a like 25-ish minute documentary that you can, certainly check out after this, or if you watched it and you want to rewatch it, you can certainly do that as well. But we're going to jump in now. We saw the figures in that documentary that are going to be part of this first wave of Infinite Legions, Joe Manganiello's Arkhan the Cruel. We're going to dig into them, look a little bit more at them now, Eric, talk about the parts, talk about the prices, the pre-order, all the nuts and bolts of this particular offering. So let's go right to it. I mean, the first thing we should probably talk about is what is Infinite Legions. For people that aren't aware, we are Four Horsemen Studios. We are a 25-plus-year-old toy company and design studio. We're most well known lately for our Legions lines. These are fully articulated and fully, swappable. You can pop these things apart, these figures. We have our high fantasy line, Mythic Legions, our science fiction line, Cosmic Legions, and of course, our line Figure Obscura that are characters from mythology and public domain and so forth. Last year, we released our first Infinite Legions project. And Infinite Legions, we called it that because it stands, as you mentioned in the documentary, for infinite possibilities. The idea was that we wanted to partner with other creators to bring their characters into action figure form as Legions compatible figures. The first one we did last year was with our good friends from Onell Design to bring their Phaedon and Phanos figures into the Legions format. And then we're following up now here with Joe Manganiello's Arkhan the Cruel, which is a figure that we teased for the first time at Legions Con and G-Con last November. We actually showed the figure in prototype form at the show and announced that January 2026, which is where we are right now, would be the pre-order. So that kind of brings us up to date, gives a little bit of background on Infinite Legions. I know you yourself, Eric, you've had a really good time working with these other creators and collaborators. It's added another element to building Legions figures that has been kind of really invigorating for us as creators as well, correct?
Absolutely. One of the things that for me is it's exciting about this, aside from the fact that I just enjoy working with creators and hearing their perspectives and where they, you know, they come from on how they created their characters, is just from the practical physical standpoint of the way that this works. You know, it brings in design elements and styles and choices that wouldn't necessarily make their way in a comic line or a figura obscura. But at the same time, it is fully compatible with everything else that we do. So it's really this best of both worlds where we get to have this influx of new energy and, you know, new aesthetic, but still it just continues to all pour into people's collections, and their abilities to pop and swap and custom. And, you know, if you look at the two Infinite projects that we've done so far, Faden to Archon are two very, very different figures. I mean, completely different genres, you know, color theory. Just Faden is all smooth lines and rounded edges, and then Archon is all sharp spikes and bladed edges. You know, it's but I, you know, I love that. That's exactly why we are doing this line, is to bring that kind of variety and excitement into you know, into the Legion's build system.
For sure. So this is a new shot from 1/6 Shooter. He shot all of the prototype photos that you're going to see in the presentation tonight. Digging into this figure, Arkhan the Cruel, you said it in the documentary, this is what we call our brute scale figure. So our standard figures are, we call them 1.0 builds. They stand about 7 inches tall. These are 1/12 scale figures, but they're a bit bigger than, you know, like a true 1/12 scale, I guess, would be. Our figures are about 7 inches. Archon stands a little bit taller than that because he's that beefier brute scale. We've released a number of brute scale figures already. This figure in the documentary, you saw the render of this next to one of our figures, our Talazir, a Jinn that we have from the Mythic Legions line. This figure's a little bit taller, definitely wider. He's got a lot of bulk to him because that's kind of the build. Archon is he's strength 20, as Joe said in the documentary. He's a big, powerful character.
Yeah, I mean, this guy really, although it's all of his, you know, his interchangeability is with brute scale, he really is you could argue he's brute and a half scale. Yeah, he's wider, he's taller. The torso has more depth to it. You know, just the mass of the thighs, the hands and the feet are larger. It's again interchangeable with brute, but really takes the proportions up another level. He's got a lot of presence, and I mean, especially if you know, that shot shows it well. Those legs are very bent up in that pose. So, you know, I'm not even taking into account if you straighten those legs out and stand him straight up, he's probably maybe ogre height. You know, which is around 9 inches. It's a big figure. It really does stand out on a shelf for sure.
Now, the figure itself, a couple of things we touched on in the documentary. This is a highly articulated figure in kind of the terms that we've been using most recently. This would be kind of a 3.0 style build, meaning that it's got the added articulation. It's got the double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. It's got a lot of articulation points, ab crunch. It's got all over the place. We've got a lot of different pieces here.
Yeah. I mean, that's another spot where, you know, as we've played with upping the articulation count on 1.0, this is really our first foray into doing this at the brute scale. And compared to previous brute offerings, This is definitely next level as far as the articulation goes. Like you mentioned, it has those double joints, the bicep swivels, mid torso articulation, butterfly joints. The legs, just because of the design, required more joints than a standard brute. The tail is bendy. So he's definitely a big jump up in articulation over the brute figures that we've done so far.
So we counted, it's about 39 points of articulation on this figure, including that fully bendy tail.
Yeah, it's very much, we had talked about like Windaji, the hyena figure, when we introduced that in Reign of the Beast. Might be our most articulated figure up to that point. This is very much on par,
absolutely,
with that figure.
Also premium soft goods. So the figures we're going to look at the full loadout in a few minutes to see the accessories. We're going to talk about some specific ones in a moment. But it is worth pointing out here, we've got a lot of different materials going on here. So we've got that soft goods, like kind of loin piece, and that fully soft goods wired cape. They're both wired for posability. And then across his chest, that's real chain. So lots of different pieces lots of different materials that all go in here. But as Joe pointed out in the presentation, it's all organic. It's all in the art. And the way that it really comes together here is just, I think, really solid execution.
Yes, I've always been a big fan of that mixed material approach, and so it's always exciting when we do get to introduce that into a figure. And this character has so many cool elements going on in design that we really naturally were able to bring the mixed material approach into this particular figure. So soft goods, you got to bring in C. Jessam to nail the soft goods for us. The real chain, we don't get to do that too often, but how cool is that to have that on the clasps for these soft goods? It just extra dimension, and we'll get into it a little bit further into here, but as we saw in the documentary, there's transparent items that come along. There you go. With this figure, and it's just like it's a great variety of just textures, finishes, materials, just great design. Like it's one where I feel like we were able to just throw a bit of everything at this figure. It was a big project for us, and it was cool to be able to really come in and pull out all the stops.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth pointing out that this is essentially head-to-toe new tooling. This is a brand new figure where, like, on our first Infinite Legions project for Faden, we were able to make use of some of our existing Cosmic Legions part and really add some select new pieces to realize those characters. Archon required top to bottom brand new sculpting. So this is a fully tooled brand new figure.
Yeah, and I mean that's again, like, part of the unpredictability and excitement of what Infinite brings to the table is, depending on the project. It could be 5 new pieces of tooling, or it could be a top to bottom figure. It's just the way we approach all of our characters. It's just whatever it requires. That's what guides the decision making.
So let's look at some of these other pieces. So here we can see that fire breath. We talked about that in the presentation. Archon comes with 2 different heads. So rather than doing an articulated jaw, we haven't done as many of the articulated jaws on some of the figures when we really want that super expressive face. So it's got 2 distinctly different head sculptures, the kind of snarl with the teeth closed, and then the open mouth. That tongue is a separate piece. You'll be able to pop that tongue out and pop that flame breath in. So that's one of the translucent accessory pieces you mentioned. The other one is a very key piece of Archon's story, and we're looking here at Max Dunbar's art. We talked about Max in that documentary. Max is a wonderful artist, has worked with Joe on pieces for Archon in his characters, his Dark Order, many times over the years. And while we looked at a lot of different pieces of art for Arkhan the Cruel, this Max's art is really where we kind of zeroed in. Here we're seeing Archon with that cursed hand, and that's the other kind of big accessory that he comes with here. He has an entire additional arm that instead of just putting a hand, plugging a hand in, you really wanted to show that deterioration and that decay further up the arm, and it's got that spell effect. So that's an additional piece that we're going to see here, and you can see that spell effect and that decayed hand and arm really better in this shot from Trevor.
Yeah, that was, in so much of the art, although it's technically the cursed hand, that transition where it just was consuming the arm, and that transition was working its way, and kind of the arm was withering away as it went down to the hand. Yeah, we couldn't just do a hand for that, so it ended up it's really starting in the bicep where that transition works its way down. And then, in the documentary, we talked about, the one real comment on this was Joe asked for bigger biceps, which in this case actually worked out really well, because then the contrast between the healthy bicep and the withering bicep was even greater. So that was pretty cool. But then, this magic effect came straight out of Max's art. I think at the time when I was working on this, it was a newly posted piece of art, if not a new piece of art, and saw that and just, dropped it right in. And then, Joe had a little bit of request on putting the smoke coming out of the eyes to kind of reflect the Death Saves brand that he does. So, that was a cool little... That was a cool note. It was a cool interaction, because it was just, and that's where the difference is with working with an actual creator of a project, makes this such a special way of doing things, because it was just, this would be cool if we could do this little tweak, and that day later we've got an updated version of this effect.
Got a great comment here. Someone saying, I hope Max's art ends up on the packaging. Without him, we wouldn't be getting something this good. That's actually the plan. The plan is that we've loved working with Max so much during this, because he wasn't in that documentary, he was part of this process. We worked with Matt and got art from Max and everything. So that is the goal right now, is that Max is going to be doing the packaging art for this. We loved his art on Archon. We'd love to see his art on the packaging.
Yeah, that's been another nice little bonus of this, is, we've been able to talk to Max and, meet him, over emails and stuff like that. And, as soon as we saw his art, everybody was so taken with it. So it's always cool then to meet, we're another creator even in this process, and then to discover, he's a cool guy too. And
sure.
I think everybody's just excited that this is all coming together like this.
So let's keep going. We've got a lot to get through and not much time. This is the full loadout for Archon. We've already seen the translucent spell effect and the breath weapon. It's got the bone cleaver axe. It's got two different sets of hand, both the expressive and the clutching. The two heads that we talked about, the shoulder armor is removable, the premium soft goods. the extra cursed hand and arm. This figure direct from Four Horsemen is going to be $75. So the normal retail price of this figure is $99.99. It will be available through retailers and, from us down the road at shows. But if you want to pay the lowest price possible, the direct pre-order that starts actually right at the end of this, right tonight at 9 p.m. at storehorseman.com, that is when the pre-order opens. The pre-order is going to run for just over 3 weeks. It's going to go to February 22nd. During that period, if you get in at that point, you'll pay the $75, so 25% off the normal retail price. And additionally, we've been doing this flat rate U.S. shipping on Store Horseman for in-stock items. We don't typically do it for pre-order items, but in this case, because we kind of have a fee, we know exactly how big the packages are on these. We are going to do the $9.99 flat rate shipping price for Arkhan the Cruel for this pre-order. So what that means is you can genuinely order as many of Archon as you want, or the figure that we're going to look at in just a moment, and you can ship them all under one order for that $9.99 price in the U.S.
Yeah, we love doing that.
I love doing that. So Arkhan the Cruel, that's, he was the first figure. This is Joe's flagship character. We knew we had to start with Archon, but Archon does have a number of other characters that are part of his, as Joe called it, Team Archon, his Dark Order. There were a lot of different characters we could have done with this one. And I've seen everybody saying, oh, I'm hoping for this character, I'm hoping for that character. Right out of the gate, Joe was really excited for us to do a character called Axana. Axana is his chief interrogator. It is she's the head of their relic squad, their artifact squad. She plays a very important role. And for us, Axana allowed us to do something, to do a kind of fantasy type character, a fantasy type design that's very popular, but we haven't done in our Mythic Legions line previously. So tell us a little bit about the process of working on Axana, who we're seeing right here.
Yeah, it's another such a cool design on this character, and I really liked this pairing because she's such a nice contrast to Archon. It's kind of like a little bit of the Beauty and the Beast kind of pair up. She's arguably going to be the smallest figure out of this group of characters, and then he's this just beast. But I was also really like that to me, she's got like a throwback fantasy look to her. Yeah. Definitely some of that old school Conan, Frazetta look. She reminds me of, something you would see even in Flash Gordon. Yeah. But definitely, a curvy figure. We usually have figures with a lot of armor and clothing and stuff. She's definitely a little bit more exposed. And so to be able, again, Archon, there were design elements that wouldn't normally find their way into Mythic or Cosmic. And she has a little bit of that as well. And because of that, I really felt like we needed to go in and develop some new body parts for this character. So although she does use some existing parts, and she's certainly very compatible with our 2.0 female figures, new upper torso, new lower torso, new thighs, new lower legs, obviously new head, new accessories, but her build is a little bit different. She's still got the mid torso kind of under rib cage ball joint, but the hip setup is very different, where she doesn't have a waist cut the way that our normal figures do. There's kind of more of an internal, there is a cut there still, but it's internal. And then the crotch has more of the barbell setup. So the thigh swivel is in the ball articulation in the hips. Most people, I'm sure, familiar with this kind of build, but what it allowed us to do was, from the rib cage down go seamless all the way to the hips and not have to find a way to put a cut in the middle. So, you know, it brings something new to the table and to the system that, although, you know, that torso verbatim's not going to get used because that's an Axana torso. It does set us up with new possibilities, you know, moving forward as far as construction and character design.
So people asking about her here. She will have a bendy ponytail. So that is a new piece that will be fully bendy on the final figure. And she's actually going to come with, you know, a couple different spell effects. So I love this shot that Trevor took because it is 100% based on a piece of Max Dunbar art. This was the piece of art that Max gave us for Axana. So being able to include that spell effect and being able to get her into that pose, I think is incredibly cool.
Yeah. And I mean, to Trevor's credit here, you know, he's able to get this pose in a, you know, a prototype. So, you know, by the time, you know, this is a toy and people are actually to pose it, I think they're gonna be able to have a lot of fun, you know, with these different magic effects. And, you know, again, like she's got some great soft goods on her that are posable. And so between being able to put the effects on, pose the hair, pose the soft goods, yeah, I think there's a, you know, a lot of a dynamic quality to this figure for, you know, for a figure that doesn't have that many clothes on. There's the things that are there, you know, allow her to really look cool on a shelf.
Now she also comes with a second hair. Someone's asking the ponytail plugs into the back of the hair. So we've got a whole second head with this character as well. So you get two different portraits for two different looks. We're also seeing a different set of spell effects that she's got in her hands here. And you can see the full loadout of this character here. So the two different heads, each one will come with a ponytail. So there's a ponytail behind her head there. And then you can see how it unplugs here. The different spell effects, we didn't call it out, but that's a brand new topper for her staff. She also has a brand new dagger and sheath, as well as multiple hands. This particular figure is also going up for pre-order tonight. This figure is normally $59.99. If you buy it during that direct pre-order, it's $10 cheaper. It'll be $50 during the direct pre-order. Once again, the pre-order starts literally in a minute, and it goes until February 22nd. During that period, if you order this with Archon, you can ship as many of them as you want in the US for that $9.99 price. So very excited. But Eric, we're not done yet. We have one more thing to show. These are both of the figures. These are the only two figures that are going to be available tonight, but we'll talk about some other characters in just a moment. But the other thing that is available tonight is one of the things that we did for the first Infinite Legions drop. We've got the Four Horsemen horse skull logo, and there's kind of a tradition at Four Horsemen Studios of rethinking that horseman skull for the project. We did that with the Faden project. So for this one, we actually got Max to do some brand new art. He reimagined the horseman's skull actually as Archon's skull. So this is going to be available as an enamel pin. That's also going to be available for $10 during this pre-order period. The enamel pin will not be offered to retailers. So while Archon and Axana will both be available after the pre-order, this pin is available only during this pre-order period from Store Horsemen.
Yeah, I love this. Like that was something, you know, we've been doing for years. And so now to actually have, you know, people involved with these creations come in and be part of the logo process is just such a bonus.
Yeah, for sure. So the pre-order is going to start now. We're running a little bit behind, but we have a few more things to talk about. So if you want to hang out with us here before you go grab those pre-order items, you're absolutely welcome to. As I mentioned, Arkhan the Cruel has a really cool group of characters as part of his Dark Order, and I'm sure everybody had their favorites that they were hoping for tonight. One of the things we want to point out is we are not expecting this to be a one and done. We are committed to working with Joe. Joe is excited to be working with us. We want to bring all of these characters into action figure form. So Archon and Axana are just wave one of these. And if this project does as well as we expect it's going to, we look forward to bringing additional members of the Dark Order to action figure form. Seeing a couple of them here. This barbarian, there's a whole group of barbarians that work with Axana as part of her, relic squad. Krull is his, death shaman turtle, death cleric turtle. People know that I love my critters. I absolutely love that turtle design. A lot of people were asking for Torgar, which is his gigantic minotaur bodyguard. And of course, we saw this art in the actual documentary. That is his pet Manticore Chango. We are hoping to release all of these figures over the coming time. It all starts here, though, with Archon and Axana getting these into your hands. Now, one of the cool things, Eric, is we've been working on this for a while. These parts have been at the factory for a while. You've already seen, fine cuts of Archon, I believe?
We've seen fine cuts of Archon. Chris actually just sent me some pictures of Axana from fine cuts as well from the factory. He's in China right now.
Yep.
So yeah, like they're not just finished and being painted and put up in pictures right now. We've been Archon's on my end was done quite a while ago, and actually Axana at this point as well. Yeah. So yeah.
So the goal is that these will be shipping by the end of this year. We're really looking to have a very quick turnaround, even despite the fact that there's a lot of new tooling. As Eric said, this has been something we've been working on for a while. So the pre-order runs until February 22nd at storehorseman.com. But our goal is to have these in our hands and hopefully in your hands before the end of this year. Eric, such a great project. So we always say that we're so happy to finally be able to get these projects out and reveal them to everybody. This one feels more so than most because we started talking to Joe so long ago to finally get to this point and to be able to have this out for the world to pre-order is incredibly exciting. I can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at those designs, like, I mean, we're just getting into the good stuff, with these. There's so much more to come. So, yeah, I'm very excited about it. This is a cool project, top to bottom.
Very cool. With that, Eric, do we have anything else that we need to cover tonight, or are we going to let all these people go and play some pre-orders?
I think we let them loose.
Okay. If you've enjoyed this conversation tonight, certainly you can follow us on our Instagram page, here on our YouTube channel. If you want more information tonight about this, you want to be part of the chat, some of the members of our community are going to be on YouTube on their off-world type show. They're going to be talking all about what we just revealed here, so you can go check that out as well. With that, Eric, we're going to say good night to everyone, and we're going to thank them all for their support. Joe Manganiello's Arkhan the Cruel, the second project from Four Horsemen Studios and from the Infinite Legions projects. We can't wait to show you more, and we can't wait to show you what our next collaboration from this is going to be. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Night, everybody.